It's Tom Albright with AVNation, celebrating International Women's Day. And with me today is my buddy Rebecca Sullins from Pro Media. Welcome, ma'am.
Hi, thanks, Tim, for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. You and I got to know each other through our AVN2, our AV Network Nation event. And you were gracious enough to join me on the panel with my buddy Bradford Ben. And you were still talking to me. So that is a plus.
I'm difficult to scare off.
No, it was more of a dig at Bradford than me, but that's okay. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us. So you've got an interesting career in general. And I want to get around to, how you got to where you are, not just, geographically and working for Pro Media, but your journey into AV. So if you kind of sit back and look at the last few years, what's Rebecca Sullins' journey look like?
Ooh, my journey started a long time ago, and I will give you the short and sweet version of this, I promise. But like any good red-blooded American girl, I wanted to be an actress and got into theater when I was very young. Turns out I'm not the best actress. Also, I cannot sing, and I will not prove that fact. Just take my word for it. So I got into technical theater and into audio specifically, and did that for quite some time. I went to college for it, went on tour for it, and then decided that I didn't want to live out of a suitcase. So I changed career paths, and a buddy of mine was working as a sound guy for an integration company. And so I ended up switching gears there, and many circumstances have led me to be in Nashville and working for Pro Media. But honestly, it's contacts. I actually went to college with one of the owners of Pro Media, and you know as well as I do, this is a small world. So yeah, it's very important never to burn bridges. That's my helpful pro tip for the day. And this is just where I ended up.
Walk me through live sound into integration, because I was never, I'm going to say, blessed to do live sound or touring sound. I still, it's part of, there's a part of me, there's a 23-year-old part of me, but it's still a part of me that would love to do live sound and touring. But you mentioned the fact that you were tired of living out of a suitcase, and that is kind of the part of it that people don't think about sometimes, right? Where you basically don't have a home.
It's New York, Vegas, or a bus. Those are your options.
And you might have an apartment somewhere, like in your hometown, like it's a 1-bedroom that your mom or dad kind of takes care of and checks on your mail. I say that from friends who still do it, right? So, but walk me through that transition. I mean, that had to have been a culture shock, right, for you as you walk into, from, again, living on the road, living out of a suitcase, into again, somewhat snarkily, but having an address again.
It was definitely strange. And of course, I picked up doing live theater directly after college and doing summer stocks across the country. And so I did a lot of moving during that period of my life. So it was an extra big culture shock, because I had literally moved almost twice a year for the past decade of my life. And it was not only, there's kind of an inertia that takes over, not just physically in that, you stop physically moving all over the place, but also sort of your mindset. Touring and live is much more, you rush, do everything. You have to be hyper alert for shorter periods of time. Now I find that as I get slightly older, it's actually kind of nice to have more of a constant schedule. It's not, hurry up and wait and then work really hard for 3 hours and then hurry up and wait again and then work hard for 3 hours. So it's a nice shift, and I enjoy it, and I still get some of the excitement, and I get to use all of the knowledge that I spent a lot of blood, sweat, and tears earning, but in a way that's a little more conducive to not injuring yourself constantly.
But also, it has to be more conducive to, as we get older. And there's an old saying about, there not being many old sound people. And there's a reason, at least from a touring standpoint, and there's a reason for that, right?
That is very true. Most of them go deaf, actually, if it really happens. But
That's a different story altogether. All right. So let's talk about, your journey, and not for nothing, you are a woman in the AV industry. So let's have that conversation. What was your experience, after you discovered that you can't act or sing? What was your experience like, being a woman? There are well-known, hurdles that women have to overcome. How did you overcome those hurdles, and what were they?
Honestly, the biggest one is just being taken seriously when you walk into a room. People make knee-jerk assumptions. When I walk into a new theater, when I was on the road, I was the A2 on my last tour, and it I was the guy that was in charge of the local crew. The local crew are often made up of old union guys that have been doing this for longer than I've been alive, and it caused a whole lot of, I had to work 3 times as hard to earn their respect. And often that meant doing a whole lot of the labor myself. So it was tiring, it was exhausting. Now that sort of translates into when I walk into a meeting, people don't assume I'm the engineer or the designer. They automatically, assume I'm sales or PR or something like that. And depending on what meeting I'm in, finance, HR, or whatever. But it's there's just an immediate hurdle when you're a woman walking into that situation that a lot of people don't have to overcome. And it's the assumption that you know what you're doing in a, engineering or physically laborious job.
How do we change that? How do we change those assumptions, to where you aren't thought of as immediately because you're a woman, you're in marketing, or you're someone's assistant, and I'm totally using tropes here, and I admit it, right? But you are, you're not the engineer. You're a woman, and women aren't engineers, so you're something else, right? How do we change that?
Well, I think that that's a more complicated question than can be solved by little old me right here. But I think there's 2 very important ways. Number one is education and what's the word I'm looking for? Visualization. Doing this right here, getting more women out front and being public about it and letting women know that this is a great career path, and this is it's very interesting, and you can absolutely do it. So that's one thing. I volunteer on the Women's Council, trying to get more women involved in the AV industry. And eventually, the second step to that is just literally going to be time. When we get more women involved, especially in the technical roles, eventually the next generation of people won't make those assumptions. They just won't be ingrained like they are with my generation and up.
Absolutely. One of the questions that we discovered in doing the Black History Month interviews, and I'm going to ask you the same sort of question. Given the hurdles, there was a choice to overcome said hurdles, those prejudices, right? Those biases. Why did you choose to overcome those?
Honestly, because this career, this job, this is what I like doing, and it's what I'm good at. And honestly,
Hang over a second. Say that part again, and say it a little bit louder for the guys in the back of the room.
This is what I love, and this is what I'm good at.
That right there. And I'm not telling you what to say. I'm not telling any other woman in this industry what to say. Don't misunderstand what I'm going to say. But that confidence right there, and that belief in yourself is absolutely imperative, right? I know we're not enough. Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's totally okay. And I'm not trying to be assertive and talk over you here, but you absolutely have to stick up for yourself. I grew up with a lot of brothers, so I'm kind of used to sticking up for myself naturally anyway. So this wasn't that big of a shift for me. I've never been meek or soft spoken, to say the least. So that's always been a little bit natural for me, but that is incredibly important. Is you have to have confidence in yourself, and you have to present that confidence, because if you don't, people will walk all over you. Statistics and studies have shown that men are more likely to interrupt a female than another male or the other way around, period. They just are. Part of it is literally the timbre of our voice does not register as deeply with them. So you have to project your confidence. You have to stick up for yourself. You have to make it known that you are an integral part of whatever team you happen to be on at the time. And you know, it's not the squeaky wheel. Don't be the squeaky wheel. Don't talk for the sake of talking, but absolutely say your piece, use your voice, and stick up for yourself.
So since we're
and I was going to get back to your original question there.
Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Tangent, but honestly, some of it just comes down to I don't want to train for another job because, you know, I like the one I have. There's no reason to waste all my years of experience and whatever. And I'm now far enough along to where a lot of people have heard my name or know about me, or my resume speaks for itself. So I don't have quite as many hurdles as someone that's young. But I do know young women that are having these issues and are retreating from the AV industry because of them.
I want to get back to another trope, another generalization, and it's more on my gender than yours. And that is something you said about being assertive. And unfortunately, there are some men who will take assertive and they will read something else into it. Oh yeah. And unfortunately, it is, you know, it's a trope. It's a because it's true a lot of times. How do we overcome that? How do we overcome, you know, when a guy speaks up for himself, he's being a man, and when a woman doesn't, well, she's being a bitch, right? Or she's being bossy.
Exactly. That is a question I honestly struggle with every day. For me, in my own professional life, I try to let my work speak for itself. You know, I just make sure that I do better work than anybody else, so that when I do speak up, people respect me enough to listen. Yeah. But of course, that involves me often working harder or working smarter than a lot of my male counterparts to get the same amount of respect. It's not uncommon. And the second thing is, honestly, and this is another one that's just going to take time, we have to raise our children to be better than we are, to not make those assumptions, to don't use the word bossy as if it's a negative connotation. You know what? Teach them to take charge no matter what, and teach them to respect people that are speaking up, that know what they're talking about, period. And that's just, it's going to take a few more generations, I think, to really wipe that out of our culture.
Yeah, a lot of this comes down to just being respectful of each other, period, right? Regardless of anything, and anything that differentiates us, whether that's color of our skin or religion or, you know.
Absolutely. There's nothing about me that makes me inherently better or worse than anybody else that does my job. I just have to work a little harder to prove that sometimes.
I'm glad you put the whole does your job part, because you're absolutely better than me when it comes to designing, engineering, audio systems. Just period that out there. Just, you are absolutely better than me. So, all right, wrap up here. And you are nowhere near retirement, so don't misunderstand what I'm going to ask here.
I wish I was. Let's be honest.
Well, it's a take me to your retirement party. Take me to day 2 after you retire, and look back on your impact on this industry. What do you want it to be?
I want my impact to be making the industry better. And I know that is super generalized, but I really, really, really do hope to educate at some point, whether that be in some sort of, you know, managerial role or something, I don't know, but I'd like I want to look back and see people that I have gotten into this industry, that I have taught, that I have helped. That's what I want to see. I want to leave some sort of lasting legacy in the people. You know, the way I do my job doesn't matter. The way I teach other people to do this job could matter, and for generations to come. And I, you know, outreach, visibility, just making this a better career option than it was when I got into it.
Very good. Rebecca Sullins from Pro Media. Thank you, ma'am. How do people connect with you if they are so inclined?
Twitter, R.E. Sullins, LinkedIn, Rebecca Sullins. or Rebecca.Sullins at promediaudiovideo.com.
All right, very good. Rebecca Sullins, thank you so much. For us, for AVNation, go by our website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. As we celebrate International Women's Day, the entire month of March, you can find out more interviews like this one with Rebecca. Also, check out our 2 weekly programs. One looks at the commercial side of AV, called AV Week. The other one is the Resi side, called Resi Week. All that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv.